My name is Linda Carter, and I'm 69 years old. I've lived in Ohio for most of my life, worked as a hospital receptionist for nearly 30 years, raised one son by myself, loved him more than anything. You know, the usual story. Nothing fancy, nothing people make movies about, just real life. My son Mark grew up to be smart, handsome, and stubborn in all the ways that came from his father. And when he married his wife Tara, I did everything a mother could do to welcome her. I cooked for them, I watched their kids, I helped them when money got tight. I tried to stay out of the way when they were stressed. I tried to love her because she was part of my son's life. But somewhere along the way, Tara decided I was less family and more free service. People change. I learned that late in life. The day it all broke open was a Sunday afternoon. Weather was nice, sun out, kids playing on the sidewalk. I pulled into their driveway with a casserole in my hand and a bag of toys for the kids. I always brought something. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Old mothers do that. The moment I walked inside, the air felt strange. Not warm, not welcoming, just tense. The kids didn't run to me. Usually they do. Usually I hear "Grandma" before the door even shuts. But that day, nothing. Tara was sitting on the couch scrolling on her phone like she was allergic to eye contact. Mark sat at the dining table, typing on his laptop. I put the casserole on the counter and said hello. Nobody answered. Not the way people normally do. Tara just lifted her chin slightly like she was giving someone permission to stand in a room. I cleared my throat and said, "Everything okay?" Tara didn't look up. She just said, "Yeah, you're here to babysit, right? The kids are in the playroom." I tried to smile. "Well, I thought we'd all have lunch first." She rolled her eyes. "We already ate. Just watch the kids. Mark and I have things to do." I felt something pinch inside my chest, but I didn't want to assume the worst. I've always been the kind of woman who tries to give people room to be better. But then Tara said something that hit me harder than any slap could have. She turned to Mark and said loud enough for the whole world to hear, "Honestly, your mom should be grateful we keep her involved. Most people just hire a sitter. She's basically the same thing, except she's free." Free. Just like that. Like I was an old chair someone dragged into their garage. Mark didn't defend me. He didn't even look up. I stood still for a second, letting the words settle in the room. Because sometimes you need to hear the truth, even if it hurts. "Tara," I said quietly, "come say that to me directly." She finally looked at me, gave one of those fake sweet smiles people use when they think they're above you, and said, "Okay, you're here because you're the babysitter. That's what you're useful for. Don't take it personal. You're old and we're busy." I felt something inside me go very still. When you get older, peace becomes your first instinct. Instead of shouting, you go silent. Instead of arguing, you watch, you listen. You let people reveal themselves. She wasn't done. She added, "You should be thankful you're still useful. Some people your age are already in memory homes." I looked at her the way a person looks at lightning in the distance, calm, but aware that something dangerous is happening. "Tara," I said softly, "open the folder in my bag." She frowned. "What folder?" I said, "The black one. Take it out." She grabbed my bag like it annoyed her and pulled out the folder. She opened it, expecting kid drawings or coupons or whatever else she thought old women carry around. But what she found wasn't toys or snacks. It was printed bank statements, screenshots, emails, a list of unauthorized transfers, her own name attached to them. Her eyes froze on the page like the words jumped out and bit her. "What is this?" she whispered. I pulled out a chair and sat down slowly. My knees aren't what they used to be. I folded my hands and said, "It's the money you took from me." Mark's head snapped up. "Took what?" I looked at him, really looked at him. My son, the boy I raised, the boy I worked overtime for, the boy I went without meals for, the boy who slept in my arms when he was sick. I said, "There's over $26,000 missing from my savings," and it went straight into Tara's business account. Tara laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. It was the kind people use when they're scared and trying to act like they're not. "You're crazy," she said. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," I said quietly. "It's not." Her face changed fast, too fast, like someone switching masks. "Maybe you forgot," she said. "You forget things all the time." I forgot nothing. I'm old, not stupid. Mark stood. His voice shook a little. "Mom, let's just calm down." "Calm? I am calm. The police report I filed is calm. The lawyer I hired is calm. Adult Protective Services calling you tomorrow will be calm." Tara's mouth dropped open. "You're filing a report on your own family?" she yelled. I nodded. "I already did." "You're choosing strangers over us?" Mark asked. "No," I said slowly. "I'm choosing myself. For once." Tara grabbed the paperwork again, flipping through page after page like she was searching for a version that didn't exist. "You can't do this," she said. "I already did," I replied. She stepped closer, her voice rising. "We needed that money. You weren't using it. You live alone in that sad little apartment." "And it's mine," I said. "Every dollar. Mine." Mark rubbed his face, pacing. "Mom, come on, please. We can work this out." "We could have," I said. "Before you lied, before you stole, before you called me the babysitter." Tara scoffed. "You are the babysitter." I took a slow breath, the kind that steadies you before you take a step you can't take back. "Not anymore," I said. "And maybe now you'll understand how much I did for you when I was still willing." I left them standing there in their perfect kitchen, surrounded by all the things they bought with my money. And the quiet that followed me out felt like freedom. I didn't hear from Mark or Tara for 2 days after I walked out of their house. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I guess they thought ignoring the problem would make it disappear. Or maybe they thought I would calm down and come crawling back like I always did. But something in me had changed that day. Not a loud change, a quiet one. The kind that settles deep in your bones and tells you, enough. On the 3rd day, I woke up early, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat at my kitchen table. The sun was coming through the window in those soft morning lines, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel rushed or anxious. I just sat there and breathed. Funny how peaceful a house can feel when no one is draining the life out of you. Around 10 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a call from Adult Protective Services. The woman on the phone, her name was Cynthia, spoke with a calm, steady voice, the kind of voice you trust. "Mrs. Carter," she said, "we received the report you filed and the documents you provided. I want you to know you did the right thing." I closed my eyes for a second. Hearing someone say that made something inside me unclench. I guess I needed validation more than I realized. She continued, "We'll be following up with your son and daughter-in-law. This kind of case is serious, especially given the amount involved." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel proud. I just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that my own son had put me in this position. But sadness doesn't mean weakness, and I wasn't going back. That afternoon, I went to see a lawyer named Preston Hayes. He had an office downtown, a small place with old furniture and a secretary who seemed to know every person in the world. Preston was a calm man, maybe in his 50s, with soft gray hair and a voice that sounded like he'd spent years helping people out of messy situations. He looked through my papers, asked a few questions, and leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "your daughter-in-law left a digital trail so clear even a rookie officer could follow it. The transfers are direct, the timestamps match the date she was at your house, and these messages you printed," he tapped a stack of them, "they're pretty revealing." I folded my hands in my lap. I don't want to ruin their lives. I just want my safety back. Preston nodded. And that's exactly what we're going to do. This isn't revenge. It's protection. I felt tears push at the back of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. You get older and you learn how to hold yourself together even when you're breaking. When I left the office, the air outside felt colder but cleaner, like stepping out of a dusty room and realizing you can breathe again. By the next day, the consequences started rolling in. I didn't hear it from Mark. I didn't hear it from Tara. I heard it from my neighbor, Margaret, who worked with someone who knew one of Mark's coworkers. You know how word spreads in small towns and suburbs. They said Mark got pulled into a meeting about financial misconduct. Apparently, his company didn't appreciate hearing he was part of an elder financial abuse investigation. Companies don't like that kind of thing. Makes them nervous, makes them wonder what else someone might be hiding. By the end of that day, Mark was put on temporary leave. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just sat in my quiet kitchen and tried to understand how my son had gotten so far away from the boy I raised. That evening, I heard a knock on my door. Not the kind of knock you ignore, a heavy, fast one. I opened it and found Tara standing there, face red, hair messy, eyes wild. She pushed past me like she owned the place. "Don't you know what you've done? Mark is suspended. His boss said he's a liability. A liability, Linda." I closed the door quietly and turned to face her. "You should leave," I said softly. "This isn't the place for yelling." "No, you did this, all because you're petty and jealous and old and enough." I raised my hand. She stopped, not because she respected me, but because the sound of my voice surprised her. It surprised me too. I hadn't heard myself sound that steady in years. "I stole your money," I said. "You lied about me. You used my phone without permission. You treated me like a servant, and now you're angry at the consequences? Tara, you should be grateful I didn't press charges sooner." She shook her head so hard her earrings bounced. "You're ruining our lives." "No," I said. "You ruined your own." She let out a sharp laugh, the kind filled with panic. "Do you think Mark will ever forgive you? You think your grandkids will? You think anyone will believe you? You're old, Linda. People forget things. People exaggerate. You're probably confused about half of this. You know that, right?" I stared at her and a strange, quiet sadness washed over me. It wasn't because of her words. It was because I realized she truly believed them. She believed I was weak. She believed age made me blind. But she was wrong. I remember everything, including the day you told me I'm only useful as a babysitter. She froze. For the first time, her face cracked. Fear flickered across her eyes. She stormed out, slamming my door so hard it rattled the shelves. I didn't chase her. I didn't shout after her. I just went back to my chair and sat down, listening to the quiet settle again. 2 hours later, Mark texted me, "Mom, we need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone. Because talking is what got us here. And the truth wasn't done unraveling yet. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept drifting back to Mark and the boy he used to be. I kept hearing his little voice calling me Mama, seeing him running around the backyard in his Spider-Man pajamas. I kept wondering how that boy grew into a man who could take advantage of me so easily. But I reminded myself over and over that love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you. Love without boundaries turns into a trap. I had to learn that at 69 years old, but I learned it. Around 8 in the morning, I finally turned my phone back on. Messages poured in, most from Mark, some from numbers I didn't recognize. "Mom, please call me. Mom, you didn't have to go this far. Mom, we can talk about this. Please, please answer." I didn't reply. If he wanted to talk, he should have talked before he stole from me. He should have talked before he watched Tara humiliate me in his own kitchen. Talking is easy when consequences start knocking. Around noon, Mark showed up at my door without warning. He didn't even knock. He just stood there looking hollow and defeated. His clothes were wrinkled. His face was pale. His eyes had that tired look people get when their lives start collapsing. "Mom," he said softly, "can I come in?" I stepped aside. I didn't want a scene in front of the neighbors. He sat on my couch like a man sitting on the edge of a cliff, hand shaking, foot tapping, eyes darting around like he was searching for a version of me that no longer existed. "Mom," he said again, "you've made everything worse." I folded my hands. I didn't make anything worse, Mark. I just stopped hiding it. He let out a breath, long and shaky. "I didn't know she transferred that much. I swear, I didn't know it was $26,000. I didn't blink. You signed off on the transfers. Your name is on the authorization." He looked down. He couldn't meet my eyes. "I thought it was just a couple hundred. For supplies, for the kids, for the house. Just small things." "Small things don't drain a savings account." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. "Mom, I'm losing my job. I'm under review. They said they can't have people with open APS investigations handling financial accounts. Tara's freaking out. She's blaming me. Her parents are blaming me. Everyone's blaming me." I frowned slightly. "And you came here to blame me too?" He didn't answer, and that silence was my answer. For a moment, we just sat there, him falling apart, me holding myself together. Two different storms in the same room. "Why didn't you tell me you needed help? Why didn't you come to me like a son instead of sneaking around like a stranger?" He rubbed his eyes. "Because you always act like you're fine. You never say when you're struggling. You never ask for anything. And Tara said you wouldn't miss the money. She said it was just sitting there, wasting away. She said we were building a future and you were stuck in the past." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not anger, not grief, something in between. "Mark," I said gently, "that money was for emergencies, for medical care, for my funeral one day so you wouldn't have to bear the cost, for anything life throws at you in old age." His shoulders slumped. "I didn't know," he whispered. "You didn't ask," I replied. He let out a small broken sound, almost like a child holding back tears. "What do I do now? How do I fix this?" I stared at him for a long time. I didn't want to be cruel. He was still my son. but I also couldn't protect him from the truth anymore. You need to tell the investigator everything, exactly what happened, no lies, no excuses. His head shot up. If I do that, Tara will be furious. Tara already is furious, and she will stay furious because anger is how she hides guilt. He shook his head. Mom, she's talking about leaving. She said she's done. She said she's not going to get arrested for something I signed off on. I almost felt bad. Almost. You didn't think about your marriage before you signed. You didn't think about me either. He winced. There was a long quiet in the room, just the ticking of the clock above my stove and the weight of everything we weren't saying. After a minute, he whispered, "Do you still love me?" That question hit me hard. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It fades and cracks and bruises, but it stays. I could never stop loving him, but love alone doesn't save you from consequences. "Yes," I said softly. "I love you, Mark. I always will." He wiped his eyes. "But I won't lie for you. I won't pretend this didn't happen. I won't protect you from the truth. You have to carry your part. You caused harm. Now you fix it." He nodded slowly, tears dripping down his face. "I'm sorry. I really am. I know. But being sorry isn't the end. It's the beginning." He stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans, and walked toward the door like a man walking into a storm. When he reached the frame, he paused. "If things get worse, if she leaves, if my job fires me, will you still let me see the kids? Will you bring them here?" I swallowed hard. "Of course. You're their father, and my door is always open for them." He nodded, his face tight with regret, then walked outside without another word. I stood there watching him, wondering how many mistakes came from weakness and how many from fear. Later that evening, I learned something else, something I didn't expect. Neighbors down the street started talking. One of Tara's aunts posted something vague about certain people stealing from the elderly. Someone else commented, then another. Suddenly, the whole family knew. And once family knows, the whole town knows. Tara tried to control the story, but lies spread fast. The truth spread faster. That night, someone sent me a message from an unknown number, just a single line. "I'm sorry for what they did to you. You didn't deserve it." I didn't know who it came from, but I knew it meant everything was starting to unravel. And I had a feeling the worst part hadn't even happened yet. The days after Mark's visit felt strange. Quiet, but not the kind of quiet that hurts. More like the kind where you finally hear your own thoughts again. I kept waiting for the guilt to come. I kept waiting to feel like a terrible mother, like the kind of woman who destroys her own family. But instead, every morning I woke up feeling a little lighter, a little stronger, like I was finally standing up straight after years of bending myself to keep everyone happy. Then, one afternoon, everything hit all at once. I was in my kitchen, washing dishes, when my phone rang. It was Cynthia from Adult Protective Services. Her tone was serious. "Mrs. Carter, we completed the interviews. We've spoken to your son, your daughter-in-law, their bank, and your lawyer. I wanted to give you an update." I dried my hands slowly, bracing myself. "There are clear signs of financial exploitation, and both your son and daughter-in-law admitted to knowing about the transfers." I closed my eyes. Even though I expected it, hearing it out loud felt like a small punch to the chest. "What happens next?" I asked. "We will be forwarding our findings to the county's financial crimes unit. They'll decide whether charges are appropriate. But I want you to know, you were believed. You were right to speak up. Believed. That word hit me harder than anything else. I didn't even realize how long I'd been waiting for someone to say it. After the call, I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where I used to pack Mark's lunches, the same table where I once paid bills late at night because money was tight. I sat there remembering all the times I stayed quiet to keep the peace, all the times I swallowed my hurt so no one would feel uncomfortable. Not anymore. About 2 hours later, I heard a knock. This time, soft, hesitant. Through the peephole, I saw Tara. She didn't look like the woman who strutted around in designer shoes and talked like she was above everyone else. Her hair was in a messy bun. Her face was swollen from crying. She stood with her shoulders hunched, like the world had finally stopped protecting her. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. I didn't trust her enough to let her step over my threshold. She took a shaky breath. "Linda, I need to talk to you." I held the door halfway. "Go ahead." She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Very un-Tara-like. She's opening a case," she whispered. "Mark told me. The officer came by. APS called again. My business account is frozen. My parents are furious. People are talking. I can't go anywhere without feeling like everyone's staring at me." I didn't say anything. I let her continue. She looked up at me with red eyes. "Do you hate me?" I shook my head slowly. "No. Hating you would mean you matter. To me, you don't." She flinched like I slapped her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean to hurt you like that." "Tara," I said gently, "you meant every word. Maybe you're sorry now because the world is falling on your head, but when you told me I was just a babysitter," I shook my head. "You weren't sorry then." She took a trembling breath. "I messed up. I know. I was stressed. I was trying to build my business. I thought if I could make it work, Mark would be proud of me. I just needed money for supplies, and then I kept taking more because it was easy, and nobody stopped me." I felt a chill at how casual she made it sound, like stealing was a habit she slid into the way people slide into eating too much sugar. "I'm not here to fix you, and I'm not here to forgive you." She wiped her cheeks. "Please don't press charges. That's not up to me anymore. It's in the hands of APS and the county now." Her face crumpled. "They're gonna ruin us." "No," I said softly. "You ruined yourselves." She covered her mouth, sobbing. "Mark said you'd help. Mark said you'd protect us." I felt my heart twist, not because I felt guilty, but because I realized Mark still didn't understand. He still thought I was the same woman who would sacrifice herself to save him, the same woman who'd work overtime so he could go on a school trip, the same woman who'd skip meals so he wouldn't notice how tight money was. But that woman was tired, and she deserved peace. "Tara," I said quietly, "I raised a son, not a shield. I'm done protecting grown adults from their own choices." She stared at me for a long moment, like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. Then she turned and walked down the steps, crying so loudly the neighbor's dog barked. I shut the door gently, not out of anger, out of finality. That evening, Mark came by again. This time, he knocked softly, the way he used to as a boy when he had a nightmare. I let him in. He sat on the couch and stared at the floor. He didn't cry this time. He didn't argue. He didn't defend Tara. He just looked tired. Tired in his bones. "Mom," he said quietly, "Tara left." I didn't react. I didn't gasp. I had seen it coming. "She packed her things and went to her parents' house. She said she can't deal with the investigation. She said I ruined everything." I watched him carefully. "What do you think?" He shook his head. I think I ruined everything." A long silence settled in the room. "Mom," he whispered, "am I a bad person?" That question broke something in me. For a second, I saw the little boy he used to be. The boy who cried when he scraped his knee. The boy who hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. The boy I'd have died for without thinking. "No," I said softly, "you're not a bad person, but you made bad choices, and now you're living with them." He wiped his eyes, but didn't let the tears fall. "Can you help me?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "Not this time." His lips trembled. "Then what do I do?" I said, "You start again. You tell the truth, you face the consequences, you rebuild what you broke, and you grow up, Mark." He nodded slowly, absorbing the words like they were medicine he didn't want to swallow. He stood up to leave. Before he reached the door, he turned around. "Mom, can I still bring the kids by?" I felt my heart soften. "Always." He nodded. "Thank you." When he left, the house was silent again, but this time it wasn't the empty kind of silence. It was peaceful, clean, like the air after a storm. A few days later, I heard from APS again. The case was officially moving forward. They thanked me for standing up not just for myself, but for other seniors who go through the same thing. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where this whole story started, and poured myself a cup of tea. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't scared. I wasn't confused. I was free. And as I sat there, in the quiet of my little Ohio kitchen, I realized something important. People talk about growing old like it's the end. But sometimes growing old is the first time you finally become your true self. I wasn't just a babysitter. I wasn't just a mother. I wasn't just someone people could take from. I was Linda Carter, and I finally chose me. The rest of my life, whatever years I've got left, belong to me now. And that, sweetheart, is the real gift.